His conduct seemed foolish to political minds, and for years the arrogant zeitgeist did not take him seriously. The mockery he earned was justified by his appearance, his rhetorical flights, and the theatrical atmosphere he deliberately created. Yet, in a manner difficult to describe, he always stood above his banal and dull-witted aspects. One particular source of his strength lay in his ability to build castles in the air with an intrepid and acute rationality. In 1925, Hitler had been sitting in a furnished room in Munich, a failed Bavarian local politician, drawing his sketches of imaginary arches of triumph and domed halls. In spite of the collapse of all his hopes after the attempted putsch of November 1923, he did not take back a single one of his words, did not mute his battle cry, and refused to modify any of his plans for domination of the world. In those days, he later remarked, everyone had branded him a visionary. They always said I was crazy. But only a few years later everything he had wanted was reality, or at any rate a realizable project, and those institutions that had recently seemed to be permanent and unchallenged were on their way out. Democracy and political party government, unions, international workers' solidarity, the European system of alliances, and the League of Nations. Who was right? Hitler triumphantly demanded. The visionary or the others? I was right. In this ability to uncover the deepest spirit and tendencies of the age, and to represent those tendencies, there certainly is an element of historic greatness. It appears to be the destiny of greatness, Jacob Burckhardt wrote in the famous essay on historical greatness, in Reflections on History, that it executes a will going beyond individual desires. Burckhardt speaks of the mysterious coincidence between the egoism of the individual and the communal will. In general terms, and at times in specific details, Hitler's career seems like a classic illustration of this tenet. The following chapters contain a wealth of evidence of that. The same is true for the other elements that in Burckhardt's view constitute historical greatness. Irreplaceability is one. He leads a people from one stage of cultivation to another. He stands not only for the program and the fury of a party, but for a more general aim. He manifests the ability to jump boldly across the abyss. He has the capacity of simplification, the gift of distinguishing between real and illusory powers. And finally, the exceptional willpower that creates an atmosphere of fascination. Contest at close quarters becomes utterly impossible. Anyone desiring to oppose him must live outside of the reach of the man, with his enemies, and can meet him only on the battlefield. And yet, we hesitate to call Hitler great. Perhaps what gives us pause is not so much the criminal features in this man's psychopathic face, for world history is not played out in the area that is the true site of morality, and Burckhardt has also spoken of the strange exemption from the ordinary moral code, which we tend to grant in our minds to great individuals. We may surely ask whether the absolute crime of mass extermination, planned and committed by Hitler, is not of an utterly different nature, overstepping the bounds of the moral context recognized by both Hegel and Burckhardt. Our doubts of Hitler's historic greatness also spring from another factor. The phenomenon of the great man is primarily aesthetic, very rarely moral in nature, and even if we were prepared to make allowances in the latter realm, in the former we could not. An ancient tenet of aesthetics holds that one for whom all his remarkable traits is a repulsive human being is unfit to be a hero. It may be, and evidence will be offered, that this description fits Hitler very well. His many opaque, instinctual traits, his intolerance and vindictiveness, his lack of generosity, his banal and naked materialism. Power was the only motive he would recognize, and he repeatedly forced his table companions to join him in his scorn of anything else as bosh. And in general, his unmistakably vulgar characteristics give his image a cast of repugnant ordinariness that simply will not square with the traditional concept of greatness. Impressiveness in